Okay, just a minute ago, the strangest thing happened. My camera literally rotated into portrait mode. It was like crazy. I was like, what's going on here? All right. Okay, so my post on the similarities between Jesus and Superman ended up in some controversy. This is kind of crazy. Like, I didn't expect that to happen at all. Oh, shit. All right, I'll just keep it. Yeah, I didn't expect that to happen at all. And there are actually people online uh, who are saying, talking about, Superman's not cool, you know, uh, you know, uh, Snyder trying to make Superman Christ, Christ-like. Superman was Christ-like. Some people were saying that Zack Snyder's not trying to make Superman a god or Christ figure. All right. So anyway, I was talking about parallels, and I didn't expect all this controversy. Apparently, the name Jesus Christ still sparks controversy, still sparks um, people to become passionate about that and just try to nullify it. I put up a post on Facebook, and one guy said Jesus would smack Superman. Another person said, you know, that Superman is like an idol, and that stuff that I'm pushing is sacrilegious. Some other people actually said that evil Superman. That's why Zach did evil Superman to differentiate Superman from Jesus, and just a lot of crazy talk over this, and a lot of anti-Snyder fans, and a lot of even people who probably are not Christocentric or whatever, um, are literally starting to just rise up like a hornet's nest, and they're just responding to my post. And of course, I believe they probably saw something that I did on YouTube, because even though the YouTube algorithm does not recognize the views that come to my channel, obviously a lot of people do check out my channel and they do listen to my content. But it's pretty interesting seeing how controversial Jesus is. He died many many years ago, like 2,000 years ago, more than 2,000 years ago, and he's still a controversial figure to this day. To this day, Jesus Christ got, some people think that he faked his death. Some people believe that they try to fake his resurrection, and it's just a whole bunch of stuff about Jesus that's just very controversial. And that's interesting because, again, like I said before, Superman is a very controversial figure in the way how Zack Snyder portrayed him. And after he died, a lot of people mourned him, but you know, always been, if you are somebody who's breaking boundaries, who's doing something crazy, just developing things really rapidly, sort of grading against the system, you're going to be a controversial figure. It's just what it is. And I don't know anybody. I don't know anybody in directorial who's been as controversial as Zack Snyder's been. And it's interesting because he's not going out there trying to be controversial. He's actually saying something. And he's not about anything. He's not trying to bring attention to himself. Um, he's not trying to be worshipped like some people worship him. Uh, it's just he's coming with something different. And when you bring something different to the table, and people believe that the standard is X, but you bring something else, you bring Z or Y or A or B, all of a sudden people start to criticize you unfairly because they've never seen this stuff before. So there's no way they could really evaluate it, like, and they think the gold standard is whatever it is. Um, so I think that Zack Snyder with Superman, and he deliberately brought parallels of Superman to Christ. I mean, he did it in Man of Steel, and then purposefully debuted the Batman v Superman movie over Easter weekend. That was a very deliberate move. So he was literally saying something by paralleling Superman so closely with Jesus Christ. And there are other parallels I would like to talk about. But first, let's stay with this parallel right here. Jesus is the most controversial figure I've ever seen. When you really start to talk Jesus, and when you really start to break down this Middle Eastern man who was in the Middle East, and was a spectacle to deal with to start with, and how controversial he was. And when we really start, when you really start to delve into the real Christianity, I'm talking the hardcore stuff, not the bullshit that people try to peddle around, political bullshit. I'm not into that. Um, I'm talking about real Christianity. Real Christianity is, I mean, it shakes up the place. When you really are walking in that way, you become a spectacle. And not that you want to be a spectacle or anything. It's not like you want to draw attention to yourself, but it's just because it goes against a lot of norms that society has. And human nature is something where if something's shaking up the system too much, the system, or the way how the people benefit from the system, will want to see that thing get rid of. And that's what they did with Jesus. They got rid of Jesus, right? Jesus was shaking up the system so much that they killed him. The people who were benefiting from the system being the way it was, they killed him. Okay? And this is not the first time that has happened. I'm sorry, this is not the first, and this is not going to be the last time that has happened. Okay? They've killed prophets. They've murdered prophets because they said things that shake up the system, and they tortured prophets. And then after Jesus, they tortured, killed. In fact, what was called Christians was a plague. Nero called them a plague. Okay? So, I mean, what Zach did with Superman wasn't even touching what really happened with Jesus, and what really happened with the followers of Jesus. So, the real followers of Jesus. I'm not talking about people who say I'm Christian and they're proud to walk around, but they really aren't. I'm not talking about those people. All right? So why am I sharing this with you guys? Because it's so strange, the reaction to the name Jesus Christ by church folk and by supposedly secular folk. Okay? It's weird because a lot of people they have a certain idea of what this Jesus Christ is, and they really don't know what Jesus Christ is. I'm talking about church folk and secular folk. They don't even understand the concept, the understanding of it. Jesus Christ has nothing to do. How do I put this? Jesus Christ is not an icon. Jesus Christ is not iconography. Jesus Christ exists now. Okay? The fabric that holds everything together, what you guys call God, that's Jesus Christ as well. And the embodiment of Jesus Christ is his body. That's any human being with a human form, with a human face, who has Jesus in them, is part of his body. This is what it's like. He broke bread and he multiplied. Meaning, a better way to say it is like, take for instance, if Kal-El was to have children, then the codex would be passed from him to the children. You see what I'm saying? So, kind of like that. We're like children of Jesus. So, a lot of people know Jesus as a man, as, the embodiment of God. But now Jesus goes beyond that. He's still embodying, it's still the embodiment of God through us, the flesh and blood people, a person like me, say, talking through this medium right here. I'm a part of Jesus, you know what I mean? So Jesus is not just physical presence of a human like that. That's why it doesn't matter what he looked like. It doesn't matter because Jesus could be the face of anybody, and it's anybody who seeks to do good in this world and applies it. um, could be him. So I just thought I would say that because it's just very interesting. I just saw this online. I was like, what? What? It's crazy how people are responding to this thing, and then making the critique about Zack Snyder. So what if Zack Snyder wants to link Jesus, to Superman? Why is that a problem? Jesus is one of the most popular names out there. So why not? Whether you believe Jesus is mythos or whether you believe Jesus is real, why? I mean, DC Comics do it all the time. They twin Superman with Jesus all the time. So what's up with that? You know, just Zack did it in a particular kind of way to make it very obvious. And, I saw another guy. He was just trying to show the hypocrisy of Marvel fans and so on. Where a lot of Marvel icons have their hands outstretched as well. Now, hands outstretched don't mean nothing though, because like I said before in my video, it's about embracing, right? So just because a guy has his hands out, there's many different reasons a guy can have his hands out, right? But I was particularly focused on the death of Superman, and then when Superman was absorbing the sun, how he opened his arms, or when he was embracing the whole world. When his father was talking about you could save them, you could save the whole world, he opened out his arms as if to say, I will embrace the world. It's an embrace. When Jesus was teaching to people, the disciples and whatever, he would open his hands out and say, my mother, my brothers, my sisters, you are my brothers and sisters. He opened his arms out again as an embrace. Okay? So you see, it's all about the symbolism behind something. Sometimes people talk about Freemasonry and stuff, but Freemasonry, again, tries to paint pictures, tries to tell you a message without, obviously and verbally, blatantly speaking out the message. There's a message in the message, you know what I mean? So with Superman, whenever we saw his arms open out like this, he was either embracing the sun's rays and taking in the sun, which is like embracing God, or it would be like where he's embracing the world, where he suddenly turns around, his arms are open, and he's embracing the world. He's saying, when his father, Jor-El, told him, you could save Lewis, you could save all of them, he opened out his arms as if to say, I'm going to try. Okay? So that's the same thing with Jesus. Jesus, that's a parallel. Okay? I never said that Superman is Jesus. He is a sort of archetype of Jesus. But I'm not saying Superman is Jesus. And on top of that, Jesus was a human, right? Superman's not a human, right? But nonetheless, the point is, there are parallels between them. And that's beautiful for me because I like to tell the gospel, but I like to tell it in a way in which people can understand. I've always been that way. I've been wired that way. God has made me that way to try to have understanding of things. So for me, I'm not trying to tell you what a preacher told me, okay? I'm not trying to tell you what some other human told me. I try to talk to you as God is teaching me and is influencing me. I'm not trying to give you something that somebody else told me, even though I may. I mean, it's part of the journey, but I'm just saying, sometimes I prefer to be taught of God, of course, and God teaches through many different mediums, but I'm not here to teach you a doctrine of some man or some human who has conjured up something. You know what I mean? I'm here to be as real with you guys as I can be. So I'm just showing you how how much of a parallel Superman is with Jesus. Because Jesus is a very controversial figure. Whether you go into religion or whatever, how different religions even think of Jesus and stuff, it's very interesting because different people have different takes and different views on him. And if you are somebody who's really I'll try and use a term that's more discreet. If you are a person who's a follower of the way, you're going to find out how difficult people can be with you because one minute they're praising you, next minute they're attacking you, they're trying to destroy you. And that's something that's just part of the course, right? And it's the same thing with Superman. One minute people are praising him, next minute they're trying to destroy him, right? So I'm just saying that I've never seen that depiction of Superman, right? I've never seen that. Usually people praise Superman. Usually in live action, all the live action takes of Superman is always inspiring. Blah 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 blah. Even when you look at Lewis and Clark right now, I think the world doesn't. They love Superman. They're in awe of Superman all the time, right? Which is not realistic. Not everybody in the world is going to like you. In fact, a lot of people are going to be actually pretty much offended by you. Especially when you're doing good and you're having an impact on people, they're not going to accept you. Not everybody's going to accept you. Some people are just going to hate you. They're not going to like you. And that's what we saw in the Superman stories, right? In the Superman story that Zach is painting, showing some people in the world wanted Superman to burn, okay, for what happened in the Capitol building situation. And for Superman to coexist with mankind, it takes a getting used to him, first of all, right? So, to me, I mean, same thing, if you're walking a walk or you're walking a path where you want to do some good in this world, it takes some getting used. People take some getting used, people getting used to you doing things that are not typical of what, how people would typically react to things and so on. So, it's not surprising that Superman would be so controversial, and it shouldn't be so surprising to a lot of people. I say it's a dark take of Superman, the world, look at this world is rotten. Well, it's a reflection of your world, my world, we're looking at. So if you don't like it, then do something about it, you know what I mean? So, I think a lot of people are butthurt about that. I personally didn't have a problem because, to me, Zach was treating this comic book movie not like the typical Marvel comic book movie that people had come to enjoy and sort of be satiated with their I call it their gluttony for entertainment without consequence. Zack Snyder's movies have consequences. Zack Snyder's movie is going to play on your mind. It's going to disturb you a bit so that you would be a better person for it. And I think that's the idea behind it. You don't want non-transformative movies. You want movies that have some impact on your life. That when you leave the cinema, you're still thinking about them and you're still reminiscing on, oh, look at this guy went through, and wow, and look how he ended up, and wow, was it worth it to go down that path? Was it worth it to choose to go that way? And the way how he went out was very violently, as we all know. Is that the way how we are we still going to make that choice even though we know the outcome is going to be this? So these are the kinds of things that to me are real questions about life. I've seen people do all the right things and they go out tremendously horribly. Like they go out in pain and just suffering and everything. So was it worth it for them to go down that road the way they went? These are good questions. And I just think that BVS particularly, and Zack Snyder obviously had a bitter pill to swallow with his daughter dying, and to continue along the path of which he committed himself to, which is movie making and stuff. It's rough because you have to understand certain things in life that come your way and affect you, make you second guess what you're doing. And reevaluate certain situations, which is what we saw with Superman in BVS. And to me, personally, that made more sense to me than an impersonal Superman who saves everybody and makes sure everybody's okay, and then he flies off and then he comes back and he's still trying to help people every single day and he's unaffected by what has happened with the bombing. That would be ridiculous, okay? In my opinion, it's not realistic because if you dedicate yourself to something, there can come something that can shatter almost everything that you stood for or believe in, and have you standing there trying to reevaluate and catch yourself and reevaluate the situation. So he went up into a mountain, and he was just stacking stones, and he was reflecting what his father said to him, and that was where he was able to recharge. Sometimes in life, and this is a practical, realistic thing. Sometimes in life you need to take a break, stop everything you're doing, and try to gather yourself and your thoughts and reflect you and God or you and whoever and get your bearings so you can remember your purpose, and then you can press on further on. So I think that's just plain common sense. I don't understand how a movie like BVS could have taken so much flack. I don't care if it's the theatrical cut. I don't care if it's the Ultimate Edition. To me, this movie was very sensible, reasonable, and practical. And another very, another very good thing about these movies, and that movie particularly for me, was that, you know, uh, people try to pitch that, Zack Snyder doesn't understand Superman, which to me, in my opinion, he's the guy that does understand Superman more than the other guys who did Superman before. Um, because he makes real situations, um, he makes us understand how you can carry yourself through real situations. This is not a story just about Superman. If you take it personally, it's a story about your life or my life. And we can actually take things from the movie and use them as tools to carry on in our own personal lives. Right? Because I'm sure all of us have had to reevaluate our situation when it comes to things like, a traumatic event happening, whether it's a death in the family, whether it is you're struggling with something in your personal life that keeps on eroding you away, whatever it is, all of us have to come to terms with something. And so this story is like an allegory to your own personal story, in my opinion. I don't know. I can only speak for myself, really. But I can relate to that film very easily. And so I think that, and the Jesus story also I can relate to. The Garden of Gethsemane, when he was tempted by the devil. I mean, he conquered and he won, but still it was a struggle, right? And the point behind it is that you have to understand, it's not like good people don't feel, they're non-emotional, right? They're talking about emo Superman. I'm like laughing. I'm like, this is real world Superman, you mean? Because what are you saying? That Clark Kent or Kal-El doesn't have emotion? He should just be stoic? He shouldn't have no feelings? He just go on and just be sticking with it? Oh yeah, we're going to go to the end here. No, nobody's like that. Nobody's like that. You can try and fight, but you have feelings. We all have feelings. So, discouragement, sadness, all these things happen. And actually, they happen over longer periods of time than even what happened in BVS. BVS is like a bridge version. We have to do this in a certain period of time, so they kind of jump cut to different things to speed up the story. But in real life, people struggle with things for months, for years, for decades, and don't always overcome those things. Okay? Look at Zack Snyder's daughter. Years upon years she's been struggling with suicidal tendencies. Right? She didn't win. She didn't win the battle, but she fought. You know what I'm saying? She tried to make sense of things. And all I'm saying to people, which a lot of people, of course, there's a couple people who watch Batman v Superman and saved their lives. Right? They were suicidal people as well, and they still have to deal with depression all the time. And the point behind it is that what makes these films relatable is the fact that they're real things that happen to real people. That's why I said the movie is real. It's not a fake movie. When it comes to the things that people share, this is not a popcorn flick. This is not some goddamn Hollywood piece of movie. There are certain movies which teach values, okay? And superhero movies to some degree teach values, right? But it's different when it's not just that. It's a shared experience that you're feeling in the movie that's a real experience. Now there's a difference between, and that's another thing I want to say, because I might as well talk about it. In movies, people talk about, I don't want to mention no movie, but I'll just say this. In movies, people say, oh, this feels like a shared experience that we all have. But it's fucking sorry about the F-bomb. It's superficial as hell, man. And it's resolved like that. Okay? It's resolved like that. But that's not how life works. Things don't get resolved in seconds like that. They don't, and you have to travail with it sometimes for years. Okay, so that is why I said what Zack did with BVS, particularly Man of Steel, and Zack Snyder's Justice League, is a process, and the characters constantly are evolving as we listen, as we watch the story. We see them evolve. We see them get confidence, and it's a building of the person. You see things from before. You see a kind of foreshadowing of what's going to happen down the road. We look at the Flash, for example, in Zack Snyder's Justice League, right? He start when we first see him, he's trying to get another job so that he can make ends meet, so he can finish off school, so that he can get, help his father get out of prison, right? And as we go through the story, he finally gets even more incentive to continue onwards because now he met Batman, right? And so he's on this journey, this hero journey. And then as he evolves, as things start to move along, we see him again, and this time he's pushed. He volunteers, but he pushes himself to because he pushes himself to generate electricity to bring back Superman, to start the mother box, and therefore bring back Superman to life, right? And we see a glimpse of him turning back time a little bit, right? And then the next big thing that he does is he actually turns back time, right? And in so doing, he recalls things that his father told him and that Bruce told him. So the first thing he says is, Barry, you gotta break the light barrier, and you gotta do it now, and you gotta do it now, right? He said, because what did Bruce tell him? You have to run the fastest you ever ran in your whole entire life, right? And then he also recalls the stuff that his father said to him. His father said, make your own future. Make your own future. But then he adds a little something to it, a little sauce to it, and says, make your own past, right? His father said, forget your own past. Forget the past, make your own future, right? And he says, you're one of the best of the best. He told Barry that, right? And Barry repeats that. So you see Barry, in his evolution, you see it all come to a head when he does this incredible thing, right? Because he's building on a foundation. He's building on something, and it's an emotional foundation, obviously, because Barry's father is accused of killing his mother. When Barry knows his father didn't kill his mother, he's trying to free his father from that. And wrapped up in that is his father's angst for him to move on with his life, to become better. And Barry's fighting that and saying, I can't move on with my life if I know my life purpose is to see you become free. Okay? So don't tell me that, because you are the last thing that matters most to me. Okay? So Barry is emotionally tied up with the words of his father. Anything his father says, he kind of holds on to it. And then Bruce, who's kind of like his adopted sort of mentor, Barry's kind of listened to everything Bruce or Superman or any one of the heroes say to him, right? Because as he's evolving, we realize he's a little bit clumsy, because obviously when you're moving that fast, okay, when you're moving that fast, you're not going to get used to everything that's happening, right? So you might trip and stuff, and he trips and all kinds of things happens to him. And, he go in and he knocked Aquaman back and all of that, and he told him, I am so sorry. You can feel the sincerity from Barry's voice, right? Because this is an opportunity of a lifetime. He's geeking out about the opportunity of a lifetime when he starts the bat signal. He's like, the bat, the bat signal, and he's going nuts. When he gets in the Batcave, he goes nuts. When he meets Wonder Woman, he doesn't even know what to say. And he's geeking out, right? But at the same time, this is a great, for him, this is a great thing, because he didn't have, as he said, he doesn't have friends, and on top of that, not just friends, but he doesn't, because he has a lone existence, because why? He moves at a much faster frequency than everybody else, and there's not a lot of people he can explain the situation to, and so to have the opportunity to talk to Batman, who actually is recruiting him and everything, he's like, yeah, hell yeah, So you see him move from this guy who's trying to free his dad, and you could tell he's emotional angst with that, to a guy who's now starting to unlock the possibilities within himself. And he was afraid to break the time space barrier, or whatever it's called, the light, speed of light thing. And now he's doing it, right? He's doing it, he's explaining, he's able to explain to Bruce about I forgot what it's called, and that quantum realm that he enters into, Speed Force. He's able to explain that to Bruce, and he's able to talk. So there's a lot of things that are tied up in Barry, and then Barry doesn't want to disappoint. He's let people down. So now this is his opportunity to kind of redeem himself, because he just got blasted by a parademon. And so this moment is an incredibly emotional moment where you see him running, and he's how did I put it? What's the word I'm looking for? He's really trying to live up to what his father said about him. And at the same time, he's trying to live the words of what Bruce said. So those two guys is kind of like pinging in his head, and that's the emotional explosion that you're seeing from him that's pushing him to turn back time, right? So it's not just about these flimsy little emotional pieces in a movie and then it's filled with laughter after. You laugh at it. So they go deep and then they laugh, and then they deep and they laugh. No. You can build a story with a solid foundation based on the foundation that's being built by the character. The character is being built up to this point. And at this crescendo point, which is an emotional crescendo in and of itself, because of necessity. It is necessity. The world's about to explode and blow up into a million pieces, and Barry, this is it. He has nothing to lose. He just got to do it. He's going for it, and this is the moment he has to do it, right? So it's an emotional thing, and really, to me, I don't know why, but almost once I see Barry running, I start to cry. And I think I know why now, because it's the music, it's a combination of different factors. It's the words, it's the emotional element, it's the music, and then how they portray it. They start slowly showing, and then they're revealing it to you slowly, and then when the moment comes to see, they pan out so you could see what Barry's actually doing. So the words that he says before, when he's talking about, he's really taking to heart Bruce's words. He's really taking to heart his father's words. And then they pan out and they show you what he's actually doing with that. What they have told him, what they put into him, now he's letting out. And when we see that, when you see it, it reminds me of the process of internment, where you're preparing for this particular moment in time. You're preparing. You're uncertain about yourself. You're not sure what's going to happen, but you're preparing. And then it's the time to release, and you do it, and it's excellent, right? Well, it's the same kind of feeling I had when I was watching Barry running, and it's like a release. And so as you see him running, and you're seeing the ground re-establish itself under his feet as he's running, and then you see it in real time as he's running, it's just crazy. And I really actually feel that moment as it builds up, and then there's a release, and I actually release myself, and that's why I kind of cry about it, because it's like the moment of actualization. Or, as we say in Christendom, the manifestation of all of those qualities and elements being put into you. And this is why I said it's a very spiritual, to me these films are very spiritual, in the sense that these are qualities are what the person is feeding off of, and they're not fully aware of it. It's kind of like Wonder Woman's impact on Bruce Wayne in Batman v Superman, where Bruce is he's spiritually, or shall I say mentally, now starting to take note of all kinds of things, because at first he interfaced with Diana. He says, I know women like you, and she's like, I don't think you ever met a woman like me. And and that's probably playing in his head when he sees this 100-old picture of her in World War II. and he sits back in his chair like this. Holy shit. He's like, holy smoly, I've never met a woman like that. He's probably like losing his mind. And realizing she's also a metahuman. So he's all obsessed about Superman and we need to get rid of him and stuff. And here's a 100-year-old woman. What the hell is going on, right? So he's like, he sends her the picture. This isn't a picture of you. This is you. Who are you? He asks her, who are you, right? Because he's starting to, Lex Luthor, thanks to Lex Luthor, he's starting to get the reality that, hey, this planet has a whole bunch of people who could destroy the planet and like that, right? So he's beginning to realize that, and I think that element, again, it's these spiritual things putting inside of a person. So these things are now entering into him. So by the moment when, and this is what people need to understand, there's something called, remember, we're like containers, but there's a place to enter the container, and the things that enter the container are not physical things. But when they leave the container, they become physical things. We call it made manifest. All right? And these are sort of spiritual principles. Like our conversation right now, I'm speaking to you guys and I'm literally transferring spiritual stuff to you guys, meaning knowledge, mental stuff, information. And that's something you will release later on to somebody else or to people, maybe as a social forum or whatever. And so the point behind it is that's the same thing happened with Barry. That's the same thing happened with Bruce, with Diana, and with discovering Cyborg. But he didn't know, he doesn't know Cyborg, he doesn't know the Flash, he didn't know Aquaman, right? He just knew that these other meta-humans existed, but he knew Diana. He met Diana, right? He talked with Diana, okay? He was attracted to Diana. So is Diana now going to become his enemy? Because Superman, the potential of Superman doing mass destruction, right? Diana is very capable. Well, he doesn't know that yet. But what he does know is she's very old and she was in World War II. That's what he knows. And he's looking at her, she's like in battle gear, but ancient battle gear. So there's all of that stuff that's just going through his head, and he's like, who are you, right? So you have to understand that all of that played a role. It's not just, you can't just look at it binary. You can't just look at it was Superman saying, that, you're letting him kill Martha. It's not just that. His mind's also ingested the fact that Diana is not normal. What Diana is, we don't know, right? Then in Lex Luthor's files, he's looking at the Mariana Trench. The Mariana Trench is the deepest recorded ocean, in the world. And at the bottom of the Mariana Trench is this thing, and it's coming up, and you see the eyes, and then you see it has a beard and stuff, and then it strikes the thing, and it goes like a bullet, kind of like Superman. And he's like, wait a minute, what the hell? So all of this is computing in his head. There's a Superman of the sea? Oh my God. So when I think I destroy Superman, then there's a Superman of the sea I have to destroy, right? So it's not matching up. Like all these things are around. All these meta-humans are around in this world, and there's no way he can stop all of them. And they've been around for a while. So, well, obviously, Wonder Woman's been around for a while. And then when he saw her in action, he was like, she's with you? Superman says, she's with you? And he's like, I thought she was you. Right? Because he, in his mind, he's thinking meta-human, so they're all together, right? And so he's computing things. And this is what a lot of people don't understand, is that, when we talk about, that's why I try to explain people Zack Snyder's films. These films are something, man. They're something. No matter how you look at things, there's always a spiritual element to everything. I put things like this. There's a spiritual element, then there's a physical element. Or if you want to say spiritual, mental, physical, whatever you want to call it, right? But ultimately, in the end, if you deny the spiritual element of things, you're really taking away a lot of knowledge, because your feelings and emotions are based on spiritual things, right? love is a spiritual thing. You can't see love, but you can see love demonstrated. You can know acts of love, for example, right? But you can't see love, right? We can't see love. You can't see care. You can't see kindness, but you can see acts of kindness. You get what I'm saying? And all of these things I just spoke about, they're spiritual things. That's just what it is. Spiritual just means invisible. Okay? So that's what I'm trying to say about the Flash and about even Batman and even the passing on of hope to Batman, to make Batman a hopeful Batman. See, all of these things is the things we desire. We desire qualities. This is spiritual things. And this is where my belief system comes from. I realize that certain things is what keeps humanity still going. Still keeps humanity with a certain order and a certain set of care for itself. If you don't have care for your family, if you don't have some sort of love or connection, some sort of relationship with your family, then you're not going to try and defend them. You're not going to try and protect them. You're not going to try to look out for them. You're not going to try to provide for them. And that's the beautiful thing about bonds and relationships and what we call words like love and kindness, generosity, and patience, and so on. Okay? So, yeah, I gotta say, Jesus Christ is a very controversial figure still. And even in the comic book arena, people don't necessarily like and are comfortable talking about that. Because in some, if you're in the United States of America, separation of church and state, and blah, 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 yada, 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 let's just stay with comic books. Well, comic books do bring that, again, they bring that correlation between Superman and Jesus. They've been doing it for like forever. Zack Snyder has been I think he's been more bold than most directors. I mean, we've only had a couple film directors who did films on Superman, so it's not a whole bunch of films. It was Richard Donner, the guy that succeeded him, and then X-Men director, right? And then now we had Zack Snyder, right? And Zack Snyder's done. But Zack gave us a much more flushed out Superman. It's not that a lot of people say this was a flawed Superman. Superman wasn't flawed. And let me put it here this way. Let me explain it to you this way. Because I think a lot of people just don't understand. The Superman that we saw in Man of Steel and then in BVS and now in Zack Snyder's Justice League, he wasn't flawed. It's just that whereas a lot of people have seen Superman where he's not been challenged as much either. And the challenges that were placed to him were in a world that wasn't grounded in reality like that. And then on top of that, the challenge in and of itself wasn't necessarily one based on realism. It could be based on comic books, just kryptonite, just kryptonite. Where did kryptonite come from? We don't know. But kryptonite's in this movie, right? And they come up with an explanation, a cockamamie explanation, and they use it, right? But in this case, Zack is making it as real as he possibly can with respect to this mythological character, which is based on an actual person. Whether you want to use Moses or you want to use Jesus, it's based on an actual person. Because Schuster and Siegel, they based Superman based off of Moses, but DC expanded it to Jesus. All right, a sort of Christ figure. People say, well, that's an antichrist. I say, why can't it be an archetype of Christ? Why can't it not be an archetype? Why can't Christ be the ultimate Superman? I'm just saying. Superman's not limited to Clark Kent. Superman is not limited to and this is the thing. That's what kind of Zack kind of did with Superman. Which if you paying attention, it's really cool because Superman is not necessarily limited to Kal-El or to a Kryptonian, right? Superman's based you could say, and some of you on here have already said that, and um, you could say Jonathan Kent is Superman because the attributes and the hopefulness and the ability to allow someone to choose, Jonathan Kent epitomized that. In fact, he didn't let Clark Kent go back and save the dog. He went and saved the dog himself, and he was saving people. So you could literally point out in this real world setting a real Superman in this world. If that person is looking to help other people and to make this world a better place, meaning trying to inspire people with hope and inspire them, that person is a Superman. It's that simple, right? Because Superman, that's what Superman represents: hope and encouragement and support and help. So anybody who helps other people and is encouraging and tries to inspire hope in other people, that person is Superman. And that's what is beautiful about the whole thing, right? And I think in DC Comic Cons and some, you see people say, "I am Superman," or "I am Superman," right? Or "You are Superman," because it's better if somebody calls you Superman than you call yourself Superman. Because notice, Superman didn't call himself Superman, right? Kal-El was called Superman by the military, right? General Hardy, he said, Colonel Hardy said, "This man is not our enemy," right? Which is something that Alpha reflected in BVS. He said, "He is not our enemy," right? Right? Okay. So, the military called Superman, right? Lewis was going to call him Superman, but it's better that the military did because they would be the defense arm of the world. And to hear them call him Superman is pretty cool, even though he's not a man at all. And so I think all those things, that overarching concept, I think is so beautiful because, there's a lot of Superman in the world today, man. And they don't even do it for credit. They're not doing it to be called Superman. They're not doing it to be heroes. They're not doing it for compliments, And you see a lot of people, I've seen some people in our movement that I think are Superman. And they don't do it for compliments. They don't do it for praise. None of that. So that's what I'm trying to get at. That I think of Fiona Zhang all the time. People say she was a controversial figure, blah 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 blah, whatever. But Fiona showed that selflessness and the push for a cause that I found very admirable. I don't know what she's doing now. She just disappeared into the shadows and we don't hear about her anymore. But she was an awesome person, and I really appreciated. And now people are even saying that was a fake account and blah blah blah. And it's so weird how people will trash and try and destroy certain people, But she was as genuine as they come. She was just a nurse in China. China! Come on, man. That's so dope, man. Awesome person. We saw her, obviously, in DC Fandom when she was talking with Zack Snyder, and she's really good English, by the way. And so much heart. And that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. That, to me, is what Superman's about. So maybe we call her Superwoman, but nonetheless, Fiona Zhang, to me, was like Superman. And that's so you guys can understand that Superman is an idea. Superman is not. It doesn't have to be limited to Henry Cavill. It doesn't have to be limited to Clark Kent or Kal-El. The world called him Superman. You understand what I'm saying? So Superman is somebody who inspires other people to be hopeful, and will try to help people and help. Very helpful in different situations. Try to help people. That's all Superman is. You don't need to have superpowers to be Superman. You got it? So it's the quality. The powers are great. Don't get me wrong. That's an advantage. It's a plus. But that's not what the movie's about. And that's what Zack Snyder was able to nail down with Man of Steel. And that's why Superman's a good person. That is why Superman is not flawed. Because Zach was focused on the qualities. And in the growth and development of an individual, you are going to be tested on your values. And yes, sometimes you succumb to emotion for a moment, but then you grow out of it. And it's through the experiences that you've had that helps you to develop as a person and become that solid as a rock person because of all those experiences you had. Right? It's a growth process. It's a process. And this is what Zach did with Superman. He, with Kal-El, right? So I, I never saw Superman as a flawed individual. Yeah, okay, he mashed up the guy's truck. But he didn't take it out on the guy, right? But again, part of the developmental process. Yeah, and if you ask me, I think that was right justice, because why does this guy need to be getting a paycheck if he's sexually accosting another woman inside of there? And when you check him, he wants to attack you. He's very violent. Nah, a guy like that needs to take a vacation, right? So he took the lugs from the truck and he smashed up the guy's truck, and he left it there. Poetic justice. It would have been better if somebody else had done that, though, than him. But the point is, hey, took out his frustration on the truck. Picking somebody your own size. Okay, I'll take it out of the truck. Because it would have been unfair. He's so much bigger than the smaller dude. It would have been like, that would just be completely unfair to take it out of the dude, right? Even if he's going like at 1/1000th his strength capacity, right? So why not just wreck the guy's truck? It's funny. Yeah, but I'm just saying that it's a difficult journey, and so to be a leader, or somebody who sets the example, or somebody to inspire other people, it's a tremendous responsibility to do that. Some people jump at it, and some people are hesitant to go there because they understand how big the responsibility is, and they want to make sure that they are able to take on the challenge and truly do some good. So that's what I think Man of Steel and BVS is about. And that's why I think those are real movies, because they really seriously contemplate the responsibility that's involved. You know, that's why I think most people appreciate Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 1. Sam Raimi's, because with great power comes great responsibility. Remember that? And so, Spider-Man, of course, his uncle died because of his actions. It was a direct consequence of his actions. And I think that weight, that gravitas of superhero movies has been lost in translation with this levity and then sadness thing that they try to do all the time in movies, particularly comic book movies, not the usual movies. The usual movies, the natural consequence usually happens. And in this case, Zack Snyder introduced natural consequence, just like with Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. But whereas Sam Raimi's Spider-Man looked more like a comic book world because of the way how he kind of did the colors and lighting and stuff, Zack Snyder's Justice League and all of the Zack Snyder trilogy so far have been not trying to do that. They're actually trying to go towards the real world, trying to make things hyper real. So that's the difference. And yeah, that's what I got. But Superman and Jesus, particularly Zach's take on Superman, has been somewhat controversial. But most people now are coming to a consensus that they love Henry Cavill as Superman. And the most complete story I've seen on Superman so far has been with Henry Cavill. Even though Tylan Hoechlin is doing a pretty good job, I heard, with Lewis and Clark on in network television, which is good. It won't be as complete a story as like a Henry Cavill story, but because Henry Cavill's story would be more of a movie, and of course the production quality would be so much better. But I gotta say, I'm looking forward to watching Lewis and Clark. I haven't watched a single anything about it, but I'll look at it. I know CW will have some slants on it, and so it's gonna be kind of low budget ish. But I can tell the person who's directing that movie was very much inspired by Man of Steel, and so it's very possible that Lewis and Clark is sort of a hybrid model falling off of the Man of Steel Henry Cavill Superman. So it wouldn't be surprising. And again, just having a little bit more gravity, just a little bit more soberness to such a movie, knowing that you're raising kids that could possibly take out uh, an entire city like that, right? You know, I think that brings a certain gravity, and hopefully they're having discussions on those things as actors. I'm sure they have. Even humans raising a child like Clark you know, they had Diane and what's his name, the guy who played Jonathan Kent. They had many discussions on how to approach that, because you're dealing with someone who in the blink of an eye could kill you as a child if he got a tantrum or something. So they had to deal with that situation very delicately, and really uh, allow him to choose, and also imbue values in him while he's making his choices. So it's something you have to very carefully tiptoe around. you know, I mean, just thinking about if there was really someone like that out there, um, that's a scary thought. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. It's nice to see on the screen, and it's nice to watch and stuff, but to know that there's someone like that out there, that can just level your city within minutes, destroy your entire city. That's a scary thought. Worst case scenario is not a good, not favorable to humans at all. So anyway, that's what I got for you guys. I'll catch you guys later. I spend the next hour talking with you guys about something I thought very interesting, that they consider Jesus very controversial, especially in Hollywood. It seems as though Hollywood doesn't necessarily take to Jesus like that. Uh, you know, Zach seems to have rubbed some people the wrong way by bringing in that close sort of alignment with Jesus and with Superman, which, I mean, DC Comics have always never separated the two like that. So, and I'm not sure why DC Comics, but DC Comics does a lot of things, and there's a lot of symbology in it. Um, Obviously, Lex Luthor was the devil in in BVS, and still is. So anyway, that's what I got for you guys. I'm gonna catch you guys later. You guys have a good night. I gotta shut down so I can get up early tomorrow. But I just thought I would talk about that. I think it's something worth talking about. Me saying, at least I claim myself to be a Christian. Um, I'm very happy that Zach did that. I'm very happy that he sort of unabashedly brought that connection together. That, and it's just something I can use so many different ways. I really appreciate that. Um, so anyway, that's what I got for you guys. We'll be posting up a couple other things. Hopefully, hashtag Restore the Snyderverse. Hopefully, we could keep on keeping that going as a group and as the Snyderverse community, approaching 1 hour. So I'm just waiting for the clock to kind of run out before I shut down. And I wish you guys the best, man. It's great being in this movement, and it's great seeing how people are still so vocal on Twitter. They're still going at it, and after so many years, we're still going at it. It's just beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. So hopefully, out of this movement comes a lot of good things for a lot of people, man. I hope a lot of people get empowered by that too. I'll catch you guys later, though. I am Christ, I am disciple. You guys have a good night. Peace.